Hello Primary 4 students. We will start lesson 5 of speed concept. We will do 3 learn activities to understand more about the relation between force, energy, and speed. And the last activity will be the first one in our shared lessons, where we evaluate what we have learned in the whole concept. In our last lessons, we learned how to measure the speed of a moving object. Keep in mind that there are 2 factors we need to know. Number 1, it is the distance that the object travels, المسافة. Number 2, the time it takes to travel there, then dividing the distance by the time. We also learned 2 ways to be able to know what object is faster than another. The first way is to fix the time to all moving objects, then measure the distance. أول طريقة نثبت الوقت ونقيس المسافة. The object that travels the longest distance is the fastest. Remember, when we compared the speed of horse, car, rocket in 4 minutes, the rocket was the fastest because it traveled the longest distance. The second way is to fix the distance هنثبت المسافة and see which object take less time than the other objects, like runners in a marathon, in which the distance is fixed, and the one who takes the least amount of time to reach the end line is the fastest. You know why objects move at different speeds? Right, because of their kinetic energy, طاقة الحركة. The more the kinetic energy of a moving object increases, the more its speed increases. At the end of our last lesson, I asked you to think about how we could measure the speed of a moving object. Like in a car race, the car moves their speeds all the time. في سباق العربيات سرعتها بتختلف طول الوقت. Think of a time when you get into any means of transportation like a car. What does the driver do to change the car's speed or to slow down its speed? Do you remember what I told your colleagues when he pushed the car to go down the ramp in hands-on investigation? I told him not to push the car using force because if I pushed it strongly, I would give it more energy, so I will affect its speed. Let's explore more about that in activity 9, analyze like a scientist. In Analyze Like a Scientist, we are going to talk about changing the speed. Get your tools and be ready to start. You should read the first part on page 203 very well. And while reading, highlight the key ideas that will help you explain how the speed of an object changes. Let's start. Now we are in activity 9 in Learn Lessons. Some of the key ideas my students collected were: if you want an object to move faster, you must give it more kinetic energy. If you want it to go slower, you must reduce its kinetic energy. كل ما أنا عايز الأوبجكت يتحرك بسرعة يبقى هياخد kinetic energy أكبر، طاقة حركة كبيرة. وطبيعي لو هحب إن هو يتحرك بالراحة يبقى هديله kinetic energy أقل. Also, the more force applied to an object, the faster it goes. And the faster it goes, the more kinetic energy it has. Let's clarify that on the board. If I drew a car, and I imagine that I'm increasing its speed. So, its kinetic energy must be increased. And the pushing force also should be increased. Do you remember when the engineers increased the number of fire extinguishers inserted in the race cars? The pushing force increased, and so do the speed and kinetic energy. But how can I increase the pushing force of this car? Of course, you observed the sentence. If the driver wants a car to go faster, she presses the gas pedal. لو أنا عايزة العربية تمشي أسرع هدوس الجاز pedal. This sends more gasoline into the engine. هيروح من التانك للإنجن more gasoline, and the engine converts more potential energy into kinetic energy in the engine. This reminds us of what? Excellent, the car engine that we studied in Concept 2. When the driver presses the gas pedal, they give the engine more gasoline. When the gasoline begins to run and burn, it will have more potential energy that can be converted into kinetic energy. If you want to slow down the car's speed, what should we do? Let's continue reading the rest of the text in page 204, then return back. The text says, what if the driver wanted to reduce the car's speed? If she takes her foot off the gas pedal, the car will slow down and eventually roll to a stop. Because of what? Because of friction between the tires and the road. So if we take our foot off the gas pedal and put it on the brakes, the car will start slowing down, and this is because the brake increases the friction force between wheels and the road. لو أنا عايزة أبطئ العربية هشيل رجلي من على الجاز بادل وهحطها على البريكس على الفرامل، وده هيخلي الفريكشن تزيد ما بين الويلز وما بين الرود. So it causes a greater resistance. So our last analysis can be: any object needs pushing or pulling force to affect its motion. The more the force that affects the body increases, the more its kinetic energy increases. بقى كل ما كان عندي push force كبيرة كل ما هيبقى عندي kinetic energy كبيرة. So its speed will also increase. The speed will also increase. This means there is a direct relation between force, energy and speed. كل ما الفورس هتزيد الانرجي هتزيد وكمان السرعة هتزيد. ما تنسوش ان في كي وورد مهمة جدا اتكلمنا عنها. We talked about the word resistance. كلمة resistance معناها مقاومة، ودي بتحصل لما الفريكشن فورس بتزيد. Let's play a game to know more about the speed. We will do that in interactive activity number 10. Observe like a scientist. Our activity is called Racing Cars in Science Textbook. Let's start. تمام. Here is our interactive game. Okay, let's read the introduction. Know what we are going to do? The country fair is sponsoring an RC car race this year. Remote control car race. Remote control cars use a special battery to power the electric motor that make them go. There are different kinds of batteries and motors available for the remote control cars. Of course, you know that the car engine is the source of the energy that make it move, and the more powerful the engine is, it will increase the pushing force of the car. Before the car racing, the competitors must choose a suitable type of engine and the size of the battery to provide them with the largest amount of energy that enable them to win. Let's complete. The race offers 2 prizes, and if you want to get the first prize, we will test the car which travels the greater distance, meaning that it will make the largest number of laps. هتعمل أكبر عدد من اللفات. If you choose to get the second prize, you will test the car which will travel the greatest speed. And we will fix the number of rounds to be 5. Then we will see which one will make it in the shortest amount of time. Let's read page 3. In level 1, we are going to prepare our cars and choose one of different sizes of batteries and type of engines. أول حاجة نختار الباتري والإنجن. We can improve that later by thinking about the size of the car wheels that suits the engine and battery. Remember, you must keep the cost under $100 for your car. Now we are ready to explore. Now, everyone will enter their names. I write دعاء. I will choose level 1. We are going to choose level 1, then test the distance. We need to know which engine type and battery size will make the car travel longer. Notice that there are different types in the list. So we will try all of them to see the results. We will find the battery size. هنختار في الأول في الباتري size. الباتري size عندنا small, medium, large, extra large. And in the motor type, engine, we have A, B, C. And each letter of them represents the engine weight from the least to the largest. And this column clarifies the different ways of engines. So we will notice that the engine's weight is changing depending on the changing of the type, and we will know how this will affect the speed. Let's start trying the small size with the 3 engines. So here in the battery, we will choose small size. First, motor type, A. Let's press go. Do you see that when the car takes a lap, the lap counter records what? What did you observe? How many laps did the car take? It took 6.2 rounds. What would happen if we changed the engine type and kept the battery without changing? Will the car travel a longer or a shorter distance than 6.2? Let's try and choose motor type B. هنسيب الباتري size زي ما هو ونغير الموتور type. Let's press go. أخدتوا بالكم الويت اتغير؟ What did you notice? When we changed the engine type to a better type, it traveled a greater distance and reached 8.2 laps by the same size of the small battery. What about changing the engine type to the best type, C, and keeping the battery small, as it is? هنغير الموتور type ونسيب الباتري زي ما هي. Let's press go. Look, the number of laps increased. What did you notice this time? The distance increased more and the number of rounds reached 10.2 laps, so it increased more. We observed from the 3 trials that the more the engine's weight increases, the greater the car's distance, although the battery size is small. But what will happen if we use the medium battery? What would happen? Let's try the battery size is medium, and we can make the engine type A again and C. هنستخدم الميديم battery مع engine A and go. .2 laps. We will know the different distances we recorded in all trials to analyze the data accurately when we see the results. We will try the medium and large batteries with the 3 types of engines. Let's start the medium battery and motor type B. Wow, 10.2 laps. Okay, in trial 6, we will choose what? We will use the medium battery and choose the best engine type. So we will keep the battery medium, but the motor will be C and go. Have you seen the distance the car traveled? The car traveled 13.2 laps. لفت 13 لفة وأكتر كمان. This is the greatest distance the car traveled till now. Now we tried the small and medium batteries with all engine types. We can now try the large battery. Let's begin trial 7, a large battery with the smallest engine A. So we will change the battery to the large one and motor type A. Let's see the result. The car traveled 10.2 laps. Let's try engine B. Large battery, but engine B, go. Look, it traveled a greater distance than the last trial. It reached 13.2 laps. We will make the last trial. We will choose the large battery and motor type C. Let's see this one. Whoa, what a great lap. 16.2 laps. After we tried all the options, let's press the result button and see the data of the 9 trials we made and what we will observe from them and analyze it together. Results. Look, scientists, these are our 9 trials. The trials of the small, medium, and large battery with the 3 types of engines A, B, and C. And they gave us the weight than the distance, the weight and the distance. What is the most important thing we should focus on? That's right, the distance. What was the greatest distance the car traveled? إيه أكبر distance الكار مشيتها؟ And what was the battery size and the engine type we were using this time? The greatest distance was 16.2, and this was when the battery was large and the best engine C was used. Is this great distance caused by the best engine type or the large battery? How can we know? We looked at all trials in which we used the large battery and then compared the results with the different engines. بصينا على الترايلز اللي استخدمنا فيها large battery وبصينا على الديستنس عشان هي اللي هتعرفني السبيد. It's clear that when I used the same battery, the large one, with the different engines, the engine C was the best because it made the car move a greater distance, مشي مسافة أطول. Does the engine C give a better result with the large battery only or with all other batteries? I have other 2 trials in which we used engine C with a medium battery and the car traveled 13.2, so it's a smaller distance, and with a small battery and it was 10.2. What will we conclude? When using a smaller battery using the best engine type, the car travels decreases. Do you remember our question? Is this great distance caused by the best engine type or the largest battery? يا ترى المسافة الطويلة دي عشان الانجن كان قوي ولا عشان الباتري قوية؟ As we observed and analyzed together, the large battery size with the best engine type is an important factor to make the car travel a greater distance. So, we knew that to produce largest kinetic energy and the highest pushing force, we need the best engine type with the largest battery size to win. So we learned how the battery and the engine type affect the distance the car travel. تعلمنا ان نوع البطارية وكمان الانجن type هو اللي هيخلي العربية تمشي مسافة أطول. Do you think that when the competitors experience other things in the car, like changing the car wheel or the cost of the battery or the engine, will this affect the speed? To answer these questions, you should look in science textbook and start trying by yourself the preparation for the speed race and the second level race. Wow, we learned a lot of information about speed and its relation with time and energy. We reached the last activity of Learn Activities, number 11. Activity number 11, Evaluate Like a Scientist, is entitled Train Race. And we should evaluate our information before introducing a scientific explanation, then share it with our colleagues. Let's read the text on page 205, which give us some data about model trains. And after that, we will answer the question. Let's start. As you read in the text, Ahmed needs to buy a faster model train than his old one. Each one has its speed. There are some data in the text that can help us calculate the speed of each train. And there is a question after the text. Let's read the question. The question is, should Ahmed buy the new train? Explain your reasoning using calculations of speed from the data. What should we do first? Excellent. We should use the data in the text to compare the 2 model trains' speeds. Go ahead, scientist, and record your answers using what we learned about the speed calculation. إيه رأيكم؟ Do you think Ahmed should buy a new train or not? Very good. He should buy the new train because it's faster, and this is what we get from the data in the text. Let's calculate this. The new train travels 4 meters every 8 seconds. 4 meters يبقى دي distance. 4 meters every 8 seconds يبقى ده التايم. So train 1 speed equal 4 divided 8 equal half. كده ناقص حاجة. We learned to calculate the speed that we need to divide distance the train traveled by the time it takes to travel there. The speed will be 4 divided 8. So the speed of the new train equals half. Half A. فين اليونت؟ هو كان A ال 4 meter and 8 seconds. So my unit is meter per second. What about the speed of the old train? The old train moves 3 meters per 12 seconds. يعني train 2 speed احنا بنقول على طول ان السبيد عبارة عن distance divided time. So it moves 3 meters per 12 seconds, which is equal quarter. Quarter A. لازم اكتب اليونت. meter per second. meter per second. So which one is faster? For sure, train 1, which is the new one. Now we are ready to start the first activity and share activities. Activity number 12. Activity number 12, record evidence like a scientist. As usual, we will go back to the investigative phenomena, which was about cheetah speed. Let's watch the video about the cheetah again. Of course, after all what we have learned about the speed calculation and its relation with energy and force, you will be able to describe the cheetah's speed. So be ready to record your new observations. Let's watch it. This is the first activity in the share section.
Okay. Not too quick in slow motion. But wait till I give him the signal. Go!
And boom! Ho! Check it out. Look at that. How's that for speed? 6.4 seconds.
What data did you record about the cheetah's speed? Cheetah takes 6.4 seconds only. So what is the speed of the cheetah? We will complete the video and then we will go back to calculate the cheetah's speed together.
To do a 100-meter dash. Let's go check this fast cat out. Hey, sweetheart. Good job. You did great. Look at that. 6.4. That's a personal best for you. These are amazing cats. And you know what? There are so many physical characteristics that contribute to the cheetah being the fastest cat as well as the fastest terrestrial mammal. I mean, all sorts of things. You could check out the black stripes under the eyes, which cut down glare. So that way, when it's going fast, it doesn't lose track of the antelope. Or how the claws are always extended. They never retract, giving this animal extraordinary traction. The svelte design. But to really experience this fast cat, you've got to see it frozen in action. which I can do. Excellent. The very rare African cheetah, voila. It is captured in still life just for you, no? An amazing animal, but what are the physical characteristics that gives this animal, the cheetah, the ability to be so fast, all right? Let's begin at the head. What you'll notice is that the head is low to the shoulders. Why? Cuts down on wind resistance. Eyes are set back so there's not too much glare. Big nostrils to bring lots of fuel in this case oxygen, to keep those muscles going. Check out the torso. Very long, very aerodynamic in its shape. Check out the limbs. Equally long, so as they reach out, bigger gain means faster speed. And check out the tail, all right? It's kind of like the tail of a kite. Keeps it balanced, keeps it steady. It's a natural rudder as this animal moves forward to take down its prey.
Okay, let's go back to the data we recorded while watching the video. Do you remember how to calculate the speed? Sure you do. I have got a calculator. You should also calculate the speed with me using your own calculator. We will write down this problem. أنا جايبة معايا calculator to answer this problem. Write down this problem. 100 meters divided 6.4 seconds. Okay? It's equal what? What is the result? It equals 15.625 meters. Meters per second. دي اليونت بتاعتي. And approximately it will be 16 meters per second. What new observation have you recorded? A group of my students said they added to their last explanation their ability to calculate the cheetah's speed accurately. Another group thought about the pushing force and the kinetic energy related to the cheetah. They linked them to the cheetah ability to run from 0 to 96.5 km per hour in only 3 minutes and in 3 jumps. They get this information from the text cheetah's speed. They showed that the cheetah needs a great pushing force to reach this speed. Also, the physical characteristics of the cheetah, شكل جسمه, especially its strong muscle and light weight, help this animal to have great kinetic energy to do work. The third group of my students has researched the cheetah's speed and discovered that although the cheetah is the fastest land animal, it cannot run fast a long distance. ما بيقدرش يفضل بالسرعة دي لمسافات طويلة. This means that its speed is changing and decreasing over time. سرعته هتقل بالوقت. So they concluded that if the cheetah has a race with a high-speed train, the high-speed train might probably win because its speed remains the same during the distance it traveled. لو الcheetah والtrain عملوا سباق تقريباً إن الترين ممكن يكسب لأن الترين سرعته هتفضل ثابتة طول الوقت لكن الcheetah سرعته هتقل. Cheetah speed will decrease. Let's go back to our book on page 206 and answer the questions with the information we reviewed. The first question is, how can you describe cheetah's speed now? The second one is, how is your explanation different from before? We should show how our explanation is different from the one we wrote in the beginning of the concept. What should we keep in mind while we write our new explanation? إيه الحاجات اللي المفروض نفكر فيها؟ You should use new scientific terms not used before, like the word speed and friction. Add new information we searched about or additional examples we collected from our lessons. Use the cause and effect relationship, like the relation between the cheetah's energy and its size and its speed. Or the similarities and differences relation, like when our colleagues compare the speed of the horse and the high-speed train with the cheetah's speed. I'll give you some time to answer these 2 questions. Then we will come back to complete our lesson. Now, we should organize our ideas and information to write down our scientific explanation of our main question. Can you explain? Don't forget that you can choose any other question from the ones we wrote at the beginning of the concept in Ask Like a Scientist activity. Do you remember what we use that can help us to start? That's right. We used to write a claim. Write one sentence that answers the question. It shouldn't begin with yes or no. ما ينفعش تبتدي ب yes or no. After that, support my claim by writing different evidence. هكتب أدلة and examples from what we learned. Then explain how this piece of evidence prove that my claim is correct. Remember that we can go back to the text we read and videos we watched to answer this question. But first, I'll share with you a claim of one of my students related to the question of how can you explain. How can you measure the speed of something moving fast? Ali's claim was, we can measure the speed of a high-speed train if we know how many times can it cross a soccer field in a minute. هيلف كام مرة في المينت. Do you think this sentence is considered a claim or not? This sentence doesn't start with yes or no, and it answers the main question because a train is a moving object and Ali identified how he will measure its speed. So we can say that this sentence is a claim. Let's prove that claim is correct. When Ali wrote his evidence, he went back to the texts and videos we talked together. Then he focused on all the information related to the claim. His first evidence was from the text in activity number 4. It says, speed can be calculated by dividing distance by time. نقدر نحسب السرعة by dividing distance per time. The second evidence was from the text in activity 4, which used the length of the soccer field with the counted time to calculate and compare the different speeds. And the third piece of evidence is that the scientist in the video had to calculate the time to identify the cheetah's speed and used stopwatch. Great evidence. So now, how can this evidence support our colleague's claim? As we agreed before, we should write a reasoning linking collected evidence and the claim. لازم أكتب تفسير بيربط الإيفيدنس بالclaim. Ali starts explaining that his evidence proved that his claim is correct because he can measure the train speed by dividing distance by time. He used the soccer field as a measurement unit to identify the distance of something and identified that the time he will use is a minute as he can count it accurately by using stopwatch. So, he will identify the number of times the train will come across the soccer in a minute. And these two things can help him calculate the speed. Excellent, Ali, because you used what you learned about speed calculation. Other students in my class wrote different claims, like the fastest runner in the world can compete with a bike which speed is 30 km per hour, and the high-speed train can cross 60 soccer fields in only 4 minutes. So it will be faster than the car twice. Some of them thought about comparing the speed of high-speed train with the roller coaster while going down from the top of a hill. These are great claims. You too, don't forget to record your claim in page 207 and write down your evidence on the right side of the table and explain how your evidence support the claim in the second column. The last step is to write scientific explanation to the main question, how can you measure the speed of something moving fast? Don't forget to use the new key vocabulary we learned in this concept while writing down your scientific explanation. And remember the claim you wrote. Take your time and write your scientific explanation in page 208. I'm so excited to know all your explanations. I just make sure you have included these points. لازم كلنا نبقى عدينا بنقط معينة برغم اختلافات الكليمز بتاعتنا. Speed is a measurement of how fast something is moving. To calculate speed of any moving object like the train, we should know its distance and the time it takes to travel there, and then calculate the speed by dividing distance by time. We can describe the speed of objects such as the train or a ball using the measuring unit like meter per second or kilometer per hour. The speed of moving objects such as the cheetah, the train, the car, and the horse differ because of the different amount of force that act on them and their kinetic energy and their weight, and we can compare between them. Also, the greater the object's kinetic energy, the greater its speed. Finally, we finished our lesson in which we learned about the relation between speed, energy, and force. We also learned that if we want to increase the speed of moving object like a car, we need to increase its acting force and kinetic energy. لو عايزين نزود السرعة هنحتاج طاقة حركة كبيرة وكمان هنحتاج قوة أكبر. But if we need to decrease its speed, we need to decrease the acting force and kinetic energy. We learned in the lesson about the measuring the speed of two moving objects to compare which one is faster, like the old and the new model train, by dividing the distance it travels by the time it takes to travel there. And of course, we went back to the last activity of the investigative phenomena and analyzed one of the claims, then wrote a scientific explanation to the main question of the concept. Can you explain? Don't forget to write your claims, evidence, and explanation in page 207. Be ready for our next lesson because we will have one of the STEM in action activities, which is about solar vehicles. What is solar vehicle? Let's see next time if the main information we learned in the speed concept will help us know more about it or not. Be ready and see you next time, scientists.